Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us this morning for Customer Service Effects on Social Media, as presented on behalf of Australia's Southwest Tourism and ASBAS, the federal government program. I know I have met some of you before via earlier webinars, but for those of you that don't know me, I'm Kristy Bailey. I work actively within both the tourism industry and in a marketing sort of sense. So what I'm presenting to you today is based on what I sort of do on a daily basis. So please draw on that and ask questions at any time through the chat or the Q&A functionality. We've also got Annabelle Owen, who is the Destination Marketing and Communications Specialist for Australia's Southwest Tourism, joining us today. I'm just going to hand over to Annabelle, who will introduce herself and have a few words.
Thank you, Kristy, and good morning, everyone. Good morning, members. We are really thrilled to be co-hosting with Kristy today on behalf of ASBAS to bring you this workshop. So as most of you will know, Australia's Southwest is the regional tourism organisation for the Southwest, and we're responsible for destination marketing to bring and to service our members as well, to bring and drive visitation to the region and to your business. So my role here, as Kristy mentioned, is Destination Marketing and Communications Specialist. I've been with the organisation for about 2.5 years, and my background is in social media specifically and digital marketing. I used to work for an agency in Melbourne. So if you ever have any questions about social media or would like me to have a one-on-one session with me, you're welcome to book some time with me. We've got some packages available in our new membership model. So yeah, we're always here to help and make sure you can get the best out of your membership. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions at all on my email, annabelle.owen@australiassouthwest.com. And with that, I'll leave you in Kristy's capable hands today to deliver this workshop about customer service effects on social media. Thanks.
Thanks, Annabelle. All right, so we're going to get into it. First of all, what we're going to cover today, we're going to look at the suggestion that customer service is a single interaction, whereas the customer experience incorporates the entire customer journey. So we'll look at that customer journey and we'll try to understand that whole customer experience process. The dimensions of customer service, we'll also look at first impressions, handling complaints effectively, and upselling as strategies to really improve the customer experience. We'll then talk about social media and that critical link between each customer interaction and social media. So throughout the webinar, you'll discover how important customer interactions are, for your online presence, and then also what you can do to generate positive word of mouth from each and every customer. So customer service is that single touch point, as I mentioned, and that touch point happens with a brand at the moment that they're in front of you, whereas customer experience impacts feelings and emotion and encompasses the entire customer journey. So customer experience is defined by the interactions and the experiences that your customer has with your business throughout that entire journey, from that first point of contact right through to becoming a happy and loyal, hopefully loyal and repeat customer. So your job is to understand that whole customer experience process and then learn the critical link between each customer interaction. And for the purpose of today's session, specifically looking at how social media fits into that customer experience. So rather than customer service sitting alone, we want to consider the job to be customer experience management. So customer experience, I believe, should be a top priority for businesses. And the reason is really simple. The companies that focus on customer experience reduce turnover of customers and increase revenue. So that obviously leads to higher profits, which is generally a business's ultimate goal. Successful customer experience management really does require that 360-degree view of customers with integrated information on your customers as well. So you obviously have to understand your customers and who they are. You'll need to create a customer journey map for your own business. Also develop an emotional connection to your brand, or help them to develop an emotional connection to your brand. And capture their feedback to track satisfaction, obviously to measure what you're doing and making sure that you're actually on track. So implementing a social media strategy within your customer service model will give you that chance to communicate with customers, and you'll communicate with them at a level that makes sure that they feel part of your story and encourages them to recommend your brand to others. It also really encourages that the opportunity for advocacy. So when people are looking for recommendations on things to do, places to stay, your brand is top of mind. So an interesting stat is that 1 in 3 customers will leave a brand they love after just one bad experience. So customers that rate companies with a high customer experience or customer service experience, like a 10 out of 10 type score, will spend a lot more, and they'll remain loyal for up to 6 years. Now, where that fits into tourism is that a lot of the time, particularly in the Southwest, we do get a lot of repeat visitation because you've got your Perth locals that will go down to the Southwest regularly. But more importantly, from a tourism perspective, is that recommendation. People looking for places to go and where to stay, what to do, that kind of thing. So that's where we see brand loyalty as being hugely important in the tourism space. All right, so let's look at the actual customer journey. Now, this really does vary from business to business, depending on the nature of your business, but this will give you an idea of how that journey might look. So to map the journey for your business specifically, you'll need to think about and visualize each and every touch point that you have with your future clients, but also with your current clients. So really think about that each step of interaction, starting with the initial step when the customer discovers your product or service. Now, as we know in tourism, people don't just stumble across us normally. That awareness phase really happens online. So thinking about that first interaction that customers may have with your business from an online perspective. And that the exercise of going through this customer journey really helps you step into your customer's shoes and see your business from their perspective. Essentially, you map the journey before you design what your customer experience is going to be like when they get to your business, your property, your venue. So on this particular diagram, you can see you've got the customer journey that goes through the middle, and I'll expand on each of those sections in a second. But the dots that sit above and below that main customer journey, they're the interactions that the customer might have. So you've got brochures, you've got magazine articles, press releases, online ads, word of mouth. That's all sort of happening at that awareness phase. Then you go into when we're starting to develop a consideration for your product, direct email, reviews. They'll go to your website, and they'll probably go to your website even earlier at that awareness phase from a tourism side of things. Online interactions, and that could be through third-party sites as well. And then as they move into, after they've experienced the product or service and they move into that retention and advocacy, you've got online communities that they might be a part of, social networks, obviously, where they're leaving reviews, commenting about you and providing feedback to you. And then you've got word of mouth. What's interesting here in this flow is that with tourism, social media really pops up in all stages of the customer journey. So you see it there sitting towards the end in that retention and advocacy. But when people are looking for somewhere to go, places to stay or things to do, social media is very much a part of that awareness phase. So just to expand on those phases, awareness and consideration are the first stages of the customer journey. Now, these stages are really crucial to adding people into your sales funnel, or essentially converting them to make bookings with you. Your customers might read reviews, look at testimonials, they'll compare their experience with you, most likely from an online perspective, to what they're experiencing with other companies. So this is really important, I think, when you look at websites and how crucial your website is. You might be doing everything perfectly on site at your business, but if your website's letting you down, people might never get to your business itself. So keep that in mind. That's really important. Also, a quick response time here is really important to leave that positive first impression. So think about a customer that might have just found out about your product. It could have been through an online ad. It could have been through a search and they've discovered your website. So it looks like your business will suit them, whatever their needs are. But they've got a question about something. It could be to do with a room or timings, absolutely anything. They're going to need a really quick response at this phase to be able to stick with you. Now, the next stage of the customer journey is the conversion or the purchase stage. That part of the journey is really crucial because it deepens that customer's relationship with you. It's also where leads or inquiries decide that the products or your services will suit them and they go ahead and make a booking. The quicker people can get to that point with fewer barriers, the better. So think about someone that's doing some research, they're having to go through to you, perhaps sending an email or giving you a call to ask some questions. That's creating barriers. Ideally, we want to provide enough information when they're in that awareness and consideration phase to allow them to get to that purchase phase within your business. And then in tourism, online bookability is absolutely crucial. So thinking about that booking process online, can they check live availability? Can they make bookings? And have they got all the information they need to be able to make that purchase? Somewhere in there, they will come to your business. And that's obviously, as you know, with tourism, it doesn't happen at the purchase phase. We'll purchase things well before we actually experience the product or service. So this is different to, let's say, a retail sense. The purchase and the experience don't happen at the same time. There could be a bit of time in between the two. But once they have experienced your product or service, the next phase we will look at is retention. So it's not enough to spend most of your marketing energy or your marketing money acquiring new customers and then just sort of leaving them after they've experienced your product or service. You really have to engage with them to keep them coming back and to turn them into advocates. So if your customers stop hearing from you, or if you stop helping them after they've experienced your product or service, then you risk them not turning into advocates or having that poor review sort of phase online. In terms of customer acquisition, obviously, if you've got a good retention rate and strong advocacy from a customer perspective, then you will get further customer acquisition, and that will happen organically by way of referring people and word of mouth. So to get customers to share about you, you'll need to engage with them and keep reminding them of how amazing their experience was. And that's where social media really ties into it. Then they're more likely to remember to share their experience with other people. So advocacy then comes with satisfied customers. About 83% of satisfied customers say that they're willing to share or refer to their network of family and friends if they're satisfied. So ideally, you want each and every customer to become an advocate and therefore share their positive experience. So there's a huge component of this that sits with social media, of course. You have to be there being part of that conversation to be able to, again, remind them and encourage them to continue to be your brand advocates. So what we need to keep in mind is customer expectations are on the rise, and it has forced us as tourism businesses to reinvent ourselves in order to survive. There's a lot of competition. There's availability of multiple products and services by different brands, also different destinations. So we're very much, even as individual small tourism businesses, we're very much competing against other destinations. And whilst an organisation like Australia's Southwest Tourism, for example, is responsible for marketing the region, I think each individual tourism business can really contribute to that and tell your part of the story to really increase the presence of the region online. Obviously, in terms of online platforms, specifically social media, customers now have a lot of control over other brands or over conversations and really influence other customers in terms of the decision-making process. So a key way to improve that customer journey is to truly understand your customers. So you need to remember that not all customers are the same, and therefore they will not need or expect the same things when they're purchasing your products or services. Everyone will have different needs and expectations because they fall into so many different categories. So they might differ through their age, their social background, their economic background, even their cultural background. They may have specific or special interests or different physical and mental abilities. So to successfully meet the needs and expectations, you really have to know your audience. Now, if any of you have attended the last 2 webinars in this series, you'll probably be sick of me talking about target markets and knowing your audience, but it really is crucial in all elements of your business. So get to know your audience, establish a really clear picture of exactly who they are. And that goes beyond basic demographic information like your age, gender, location. You have to have, or a geographic location, I should say, you have to have a really clear picture of exactly who your target market is. And that's to make sure that you're reaching the right buyers. You have a clear idea of who they are. And keep in mind that your ideal customers may not be who you think they are. Through research, you hopefully will have determined exactly who it is that's right for you. You can analyse your existing customer base and look at what traits correlate with, repeat visitation, or what segments become more long-term customers or transact on higher levels. What are your ideal customers? Also continue to look for new ways to meet customer needs. So once you've identified your most valuable audience or your target market and what it is that they're looking for, what their needs and wants are, you need to continuously find new ways to better meet their needs. Now, a key thing to keep in mind is that you would never expect your audience or your customers to change their needs and wants to suit your product. You are always going to have to continue to evolve your product to suit changing, emerging, or new customer needs and wants. So in order to do that, it's really important that yourself and your staff develop a really customer-centric culture. So encourage your staff to keep customers at the centre of each and every decision they make. So I'll expand on customer service a bit shortly, but the key point is that your staff really need to have clear, set customer service standards, as they're the ones that interact with customers on a face-to-face basis, and most often they will have a major impact on whether or not you're meeting your customer needs and expectations. So it means hiring an amazing team, retaining that team when you've got them, but also collecting feedback regularly from your customers to make sure that if there are any gaps in needs or wants, or expectations, that you are continually evolving to try and upgrade, update, reinvent yourself to meet those changing needs. So social media makes it really easy for us to obtain feedback. So we'll get into that shortly. But I would really suggest having a look at what your reviews are doing, having a look at what people are saying about you now, but also look at your competitors. Have a look at what they're doing, what kind of feedback they're getting, and make sure that you're on track, and if there's any trends emerging, anything changing, that you're sort of keeping up with that. All right, so looking at customer service, there are 3 dimensions of customer service, and they are really at the core of providing great customer service, and they all interlink. So first of all, you've got human dimensions. Now that relates to body language, attitudes, how motivated your staff are, or perhaps are not, depending on who they are, time of year, that kind of thing. Then you've got the business dimensions. So the business dimensions are your processes and procedures, your product offering and whether or not this is up to scratch and meeting the needs of your customers, your staff knowledge of specific areas of your business. Even regional knowledge is really important. You think you've got someone in front of you that wants information about things to do once they leave the hotel, or what to do next, where to go for lunch. It's really important that your staff do have that knowledge that's outside of your product and service as well. Also the product delivery and how your customer service is and what your policies and procedures are in that sense. You've also got hidden dimensions. So hidden dimensions are a tricky one. If you think about a duck swimming on a lake or a pond and everything looks nice and calm, but underneath their legs are going like crazy. And that's sort of how you want hidden dimensions to be, or how they can be. So hidden dimensions could be technical issues that affect processes within your business. It could be your business policies or procedures. It could be pressures on staff because they've got limited resources, or they're overworked, or it's been a long season and it's coming to the end of your summer season. It could be the quality of working relationships. So how well do your staff get along with each other? And it could also be staff bringing home problems to work. So we really want to, you have to identify that there can be hidden dimensions, and really look at how you can make sure that doesn't impact your customer service experience at all. Also, you need to keep in mind, and your staff need to know, that customers have hidden dimensions that impact how they receive your product or service, and therefore how they're going to interact with your team. So think about what may have happened in their day that's made them difficult to please. So sometimes I think from a customer service perspective, we can get frustrated with people that are clearly just having a bad day. But I think training people to understand that there can be hidden dimensions and we have to make allowances for that is really important. And on the flip side, staff understanding that they too can have hidden dimensions, but they can't let that show from a customer service perspective. So these 3 dimensions of customer service are really good to know for both frontline staff, owners of the business, absolutely anyone that's involved in the customer service delivery. And research does state that if you align these 3 dimensions, it'll equate to excellent customer service. So in terms of good customer service, it's absolutely critical to success in all business. Good customer service can elevate you well above your competition, even if you're offering the same product or service. Really elevating you higher through customer service is really an easy win. So make sure that you use the mantra under promise and over deliver, because it will really improve your customer retention rate and that advocacy rate as well. And keep in mind, if customers are frustrated with the service that they receive, they're more likely to rate their service poorly. So think about what your reviews online may look like and look at what they look like now. Look at your social media, look at your Google reviews, Yelp, TripAdvisor, absolutely anywhere that you've got reviews at the moment. Make sure that you are taking note of them, that you're actively engaging with those reviews as well. So in terms of how we improve customer service to make sure that you've got that good retention rate and the good advocacy rate, there are a few key areas that we'll go over, but starting with first impressions. So first impressions are made within 3 to 7 seconds of the initial meeting. So keep in mind that in tourism, those first impressions may be made online. So it may not even be your face-to-face first impressions. It could be on your website where people are really judging your business, your entire business, based on the homepage of your website. Your customer journey absolutely starts with this first impression. So it's so important that you get it right. Each and every person interacts with the business for the same reason, and that's to solve their need or want and to feel good. So you need to make sure that you can achieve that in that initial first impression phase. Now, a first impression face-to-face is 3 to 7 seconds, but online it's much, much shorter. It's within 1 to 2 to 3 seconds where people are on your website, having a look what it looks like, and they'll decide very, very quickly if they want to spend their time even going into the second page of your website or to the next phase. So really, I would encourage you more than anything to have a look at mapping out that customer journey. What are the first impressions? Is it your website? Do a search. What comes up when people are searching for things to do or places to stay in your region? Other things that can form a first impression are your environment or your venue presentation. So those environmental first impressions, that could be smell, it could be temperature, it could be music, the overall atmosphere. So make sure that at your venue or at your business, you're keeping that consistent with the brand that you're trying to create. Now, you'll see this in the retail sense, in stores where the music is loud and it's a certain type of music, and that's appealing to a very specific market, whereas other stores might be a lot calmer. There might be, oils burning and that kind of thing. So you really have to create that space, but the space has to suit your target market. Your own personal image and your staff's personal image is really important in that sense as well. How you dress, how you present yourself really tells part of the story. Now, I had an interesting experience with this not that long ago, only a couple of weeks, and I'm pleased to say it wasn't in the Southwest region. But we had booked a trip, fairly expensive, really excited, once in a lifetime kind of day trip, involved flights and boats and all kinds of things. When we flew out, and that was all great, when we landed, we were greeted by some staff, and they were lovely, very knowledgeable. Everything looked great. They did our safety briefing, everything, but their uniforms were very faded. Their name badges were unprofessional, handwritten, and just it looked a bit, like they just made them that morning. So those kind of things and that staff image really put me off, and it made me question the operation and made me start to question other things, and hats and shorts and shirts being faded or ripped, and it's such a minor thing to replace or to keep up to standard, but it does really tell part of this first impression. Also your local language. So do you use slang? Is that appropriate for your market? When we're dealing with international markets, it's really important, particularly more where there's more barriers, language barriers. It's really important how we speak and if we do or don't use slang. Our body language is a big part of that, of course, thinking about whether you're smiling and how people are perceiving you from an attitude perspective, and whether or not you're showing empathy to them. Now, Disney have a really interesting concept, and it's the 15 and 10 rule. So basically their rule states that if a customer is within 15 feet, which is about 4.5 meters, they have to acknowledge that customer with a smile. Then the next part of their rule is that if a customer is within 10 feet, which is about 3.5 meters, they have to acknowledge them verbally as well. So with a hi, how can I help you? I'll be with you in a minute. Hi, how are you going? That kind of thing. So that acknowledgement really has the power to make someone feel good at that point of that first interaction, and it will really create a lasting first impression. So think about your acknowledgement sort of rules. Do you have any guidelines for staff around that? I see it a lot in hospitality where people are busy making, coffees or doing whatever they're doing, and they don't acknowledge you, particularly if they're caught behind a desk. Or the worst thing is when you walk in somewhere and someone's got their head down, busily working. And I understand people are busy, but that acknowledgement is so, so important. So make sure your staff are across that as well. Then there's complaint handling. So virtually everyone will have to deal with customer complaints at some point in their career, whether it's something simple as getting an order or a booking slightly wrong, or it's a major problem like you haven't, a booking's been missed or made for the wrong date or something like that. How you handle that complaint makes a major difference. So this format, the LEARN format, is a great format to follow. LEARN is an acronym that starts for listen. Well, the L is listen. So listen to the customer's concern or their issue without interrupting them. Empathize with them, be sympathetic. And obviously, if you're stopping and listening to what they're saying, you're then able to empathize with them. Apologize, and that may or may not be appropriate. Sometimes you have, or the business has generally done the wrong thing, and therefore an apology is appropriate. Sometimes it can come back to, think about those hidden factors where someone's just complaining because they're having a bad day. So sometimes you have the need to apologize that they're feeling the way they're feeling. But an apology and going back to the customer is always right type scenario is really, really appropriate in terms of complaint handling. Then there's the reaction, which is to evaluate different solutions. What can you do to make this customer happy or solve this problem? And then from there, and this is a key element that a lot of people forget, that notify or follow up. So after you've offered something and you've provided a solution, personally check with the guest to make sure that they're satisfied and make sure that that actually did turn them around. Sometimes we can offer things that infuriate people even more or don't solve a problem, something that they don't actually want, but we're just sort of throwing a solution at them to, to sort the problem out. So keep that in mind. It's really important. At that stage, you've got the opportunity to address the problem again. If they're still not happy, what do we need to do next to solve this problem? Now, this complaint handling is absolutely crucial when it comes to social media. If we do this right, those complaints will never make it to social media. And quite often it's the opposite. There'll be compliments and fantastic reviews that make it to social media. If we do this wrong in a face-to-face basis, or even on the phone or via email, I will guarantee a large majority of those complaints will go online. Or when someone asks, hey, I want to book at this place, what do you think? They'd go, no, I wouldn't. I had a bad situation, this happened. So keep that in mind. This complaint handling is absolutely crucial. Now, there are a few reasons that we don't handle complaints well. Being busy is one of them. Sometimes a complaint can occur because we're busy. And then also it can be not handled well because we're busy. As small business owners, we tend to be protective and emotionally connected to our product or service. So being defensive can happen. Defensive can be a number of things. It can be just denying that the problem occurred and saying, no, you're wrong type thing. Or it can be trying too quickly to come up with a solution. That can appear really defensive as well. Sometimes staff can be intimidated by lack of training. So thinking about your frontline staff, have they been trained on complaint handling? Do they know exactly what the process is in terms of handling a customer complaint? Do they know how empowered they are? So at what point they can provide a solution versus what point they need to escalate that problem to the next level, perhaps to yourself or to a manager or a duty manager, whoever's on site, able to handle the complaint more effectively. Also, and this is all sort of tied into what we've been saying with lack of training and not ensure of your empowerment, but a lack of procedures or a procedural breakdown can mean that we don't handle complaints very well. So just think about your business, as big or small as it is. Do you have a complaint handling process? And are your staff aware of what that process might be? Because this is a key area that is going to impact your social media. Now, another way to really improve customer service, but to also improve your revenues, is suggestive selling. So suggestive selling is a sales technique where the employee asks the customer if they want to include an additional purchase or perhaps an upgrade, and recommends a product that might suit the client. So ideally, suggestive selling is used to increase the purchase amount or the client revenue, the revenue of for the business. But it really translates to fantastic customer service. It means that we've taken the time to understand the customer a bit more, and therefore we're making a suggestion based on something that will suit their needs because we do understand them. So from a customer's perspective, it really comes across like you've spent the time to understand them, and it is fantastic from a customer service perspective. Obviously, in a business sense, more revenues are fantastic. That hopefully leads to higher profits. So how do you do it? First of all, you need to incorporate a feature and a benefit. So a feature is something about the product or service, whereas a benefit is what it can do for the client. So you think about what you can offer to the customer, what's in it for the customer that links the two together. So a greeting, I believe, is a really key element to finding out what the customer actually really wants. So what feature can you give them based on what you know about them? In this sense, open-ended questions that are designed to encourage a really full and meaningful answer using your own knowledge or feelings and drawing on the customer's knowledge and feeling based on what you know about them is fantastic, and it really avoids any stop words like no or yes. An open-ended question is obviously the opposite of a closed-ended question, so we don't want those single-word responses. So how you find out what they want? Well, obviously greeting is key. Tell me what you have in mind. What's the occasion? You might know that someone's booked in to stay with you or to experience your product or service because they have a special occasion. So what can you do to really highlight that special occasion and upsell to them? What kind of holidays do they like? What are you looking forward to about your experience? Even things like from a hospitality perspective, not asking, do you want some dessert? That's going to elicit a yes or no response. Thinking about, asking more open-ended questions, or simply presenting different menus, saying, have you seen our dessert menu? Why don't you take a look at the range? Also, in that sense, your staff really need to know your products and your menus. And when I say menus, I don't necessarily mean from a hospitality perspective, but your range of products and what else you can do to upsell the client. So thinking about what else you can offer. If staff know things like, in a hotel sense, that it costs the same amount to clean a standard and a premium room. So try and upsell to the premium room because that just equates to more profit. So getting your staff to try and think a little bit more commercially like that and really upsell. Plus, obviously, at the same time, you're really improving your customer service, which leads to a more positive experience. And that is highly likely to translate into higher retention, stronger advocacy, all of which is going to go online. I would encourage staff to share their own experiences as well. And like I said earlier, understand the region, understand the destination that you're working within so that they can share experiences and make recommendations. It's small things that, that kind of thing, sharing experiences of the region may not lead to an increased profit for you or revenues, but it will lead to an improvement in that customer service space. So that's really important. Also, in terms of your staff, making sure that they know what they can offer. So if a customer orders a certain thing, a lot of the time they'll upgrade to, or you can offer them another thing that goes really well with it. So make sure you have those standards fairly clear for customers, so for your staff, so that they can speak to your customers about them. All right, so that's customer experience and the customer journey. I would highly encourage you to go and have a look at your customer journey and really map out all the touch points that your staff or yourself have with your customers and how you can improve on each and every part of that journey. But how does it fit and relate to the social media space? Well, what social media is, it's essentially any website or application that enables users to create and to share content or to participate in social networking. So it's Facebook, it's Instagram, it's Twitter. There's a range of other social sharing sites. There's also a lot of community pages, there's community blogs, or there's product and service communities, particularly in the travel industry. There's a lot of travel communities. So you have to keep in mind, social media is a lot more than a messaging or an acquisition channel. It also really directly impacts your SEO, which is your search engine optimization, or how well your website ranks. So I will expand more on that and the SEO side of things in just a minute as well. But before I do, the reason social media is so important for us is that 88% of people are influenced by reviews and online comments. So thinking about that, do you know what all of your reviews and your online comments are, and are you actively tracking what's being said about you online? So social pressure can tarnish your brand as quickly as you grow it, and you really need to keep in mind that people's fingertips are always on the move. So whether they're waiting in line and they're disgruntled about service, they can quickly let their friends know on Facebook. Whether they've enjoyed their stay at a hotel, they can review it on TripAdvisor, or they can blog on other sites about other products or services they've experienced. So social media has played a major role in the power shift to your customers. Think about how immensely connected the world has become since the introduction of social media. So if you've had a bad experience, you post a review. If you want to praise a business on a product that they've launched, you can even post a video review. Think of how many people are taking photos whilst they're experiencing your product or service. So when you think about that, if you were to have a photo shoot at your property or at your business, you would absolutely go around and tidy everything up and get it perfect. But what you need to consider is that you have photo shoots going on all day, every day, and this information is going online. So the risks of social media can greatly affect your reputation from a negative sense, but it can greatly improve your reputation in a positive sense as well. So it is extremely important. In terms of how social media can positively impact your customer services, well, your job is to look at where those social interactions fit into the customer journey and make sure that you're maximizing your efforts in that sense to be part of any conversations that are going on. Make sure that you're listening to the feedback from your customers. Now, some tips in terms of listening to that feedback would be to really reap the benefits of two-way brand engagement. So customers absolutely love it when businesses share information, share tips, share ideas, and sometimes even a bit of banter across social media, depending on the nature of your business and your brand, obviously. But customers love to also send a message to their favorite brands, or even if they've got an upcoming visit to you, they love to get on there and try to engage with you. It's really important that we embrace that. If you respond back, obviously that excites the customer even more. So that two-way engagement on social media is a really good way to build brand loyalty, give your company its own voice, but also really establish those relationships with your customer. Social media should be an extension of your contact info. So customers today want a response to their comments or concerns or their direct messages within hours, not days. So social media lets customers really effortlessly reach out to you. They don't have to make a call, get stuck on hold, or wait for an email response. They don't want to go through that hassle, even the hassle to find your phone number. So make sure that you are on social media and answering those requests just as quickly as you would an email or a phone call. Now, in terms of complaints, it's hugely important that you nip complaints in the bud easily. Now, we've spoken about complaint handling in a face-to-face sense. Sometimes, if it's not addressed properly at that level, or in the first instance, it could even go onto social media. So if you avoid social media, it's not going to stop your customers from speaking up if they do have something that they want to let you know or some form of complaint. If you've got a presence on social channels, at least you'll know about issues and can address them really promptly to get ahead of a situation. Studies show that 70% of brands on social media respond to customer complaints within the first 24 hours. So 24 hours, I think, is even quite a long time. I would be, addressing those situations a lot quicker than that from a social media sense. Keep in mind, if you're not there to do it, your other customers will. People that have had experiences will get on there, and even your competitors might get on there. So keep that in mind. If you've got your number or your email address listed on your social media so that they can quickly get to you, that's great. But there's always going to be people that want to comment and want to engage with you online. Now, there's a huge concern here, and I have seen this in a tourism business where a complaint was made online, and it was to do with a dish at a properties restaurant. This was posted online. The business wasn't there to answer the complaint, or the review, you could call it. Somebody else got on, then someone else got on, then someone else got on, and it very, very quickly went quite viral. Perth Now then picked it up, and then it even ended up on, I think it was, it must have been a slow news day, but Channel 9 News or something like that, the nightly news. So something like that was just it was a complaint about a dish received. Now, obviously that person didn't complain when they were in front of the business, but they decided to put it online. So in that sense, if the business had got on board straight away and answered and said, I'm so sorry that you received this dish and you weren't happy with it, maybe explained how the dish was presented and why it was presented. As it turned out, the photo was slightly inaccurate, and it was half eaten by the time they took the photo. So, you can even explain that kind of thing. And then what you're going to do to rectify it. People have nowhere to go. That then isn't news. It's just a complaint that's been handled well. So you have to keep in mind that nipping complaints in the bud really quickly is very important. Now, spotting trends on or before they occur is also really important. So you should keep your ear to the ground and pay really close attention to what customers are talking about, so that you can potentially spot trends. So looking at what they're talking about in terms of their conversation with you, but perhaps your competitors, competing destinations, or other similar businesses. It's really useful to monitor hashtags, obviously follow your competitors' pages, and just get a head start on providing customers what they want. Remember, we said earlier that you can't expect customers to change their needs based on your product offering. So you might identify here that consumers' needs are changing, and therefore you have to adapt your product slightly to suit what they want. Obviously, from a social media perspective, there's a lot of analytics that you can get from there. So there could be trends in that sense where you see that there's a lot more uptake in certain social media channels, or you're getting hits to your website. So looking for those marketing type trends as well. Now, another tip is that social media gives you additional access to your customers, so make use of that access. So it's not always an advertising opportunity, and it's rarely an advertising opportunity in your posts and in your conversation. Obviously, social media does have, and Facebook in particular has advertising, which sits separate to your organic posts. But it's not, organically, it's not the right medium for sales campaigns. You can share the odd offer or deal. Keep in mind that 80-20 rule. 80% of the time, your posts should be engaging, perhaps informative, fun, interesting, destinational, and then 20% of the time, an odd offer here or there is absolutely fine. But it does give you this additional access to your clients or your customers to try and build or continue relationships. Build relationships before they've experienced your product or service, or continue relationships well after they have. Now, keep in mind, if you do want to increase sales in the long term through your social media activities, you also have to use social media for customer service as well. So whether it's complaint handling, fielding inquiries or responses, and just general engagement with your customers. Now, another huge benefit of social media, and I did touch on this earlier, is that social media can really positively impact your SEO. So not only do social media interactions affect what your customer sees and your customer service, but it also affects what you do behind the scenes and how well you come up in searches. So because so much sharing now takes place on major social media platforms, social signals are important to SEO, or search engine optimization, or how well your website will rank. So social signals refer to your page's collective shares, likes, comments, so that overall social media visibility as perceived by a search engine. So all of those activities contribute to your organic search ranking, and they're seen of it as another form of authority. So it's very similar to backlinks in terms of off-page SEO. So your strategies that are designed to increase social media engagement can also really increase your website's search engine ranking. So it's another huge benefit of social media. So if you're looking to increase your SEO, absolutely look at social media as part of your strategy, but customer service is really the main thing in that sense. Now, in terms of increasing your social signals, first and foremost, your strong content is key. So that valuable, entertaining, or informative content always gets more positive interaction than blatant or spammy sort of advertising. So some tried and true strategies for really increasing the volume on your social signals are to post regularly. Keep in mind, it's not always about quantity. It really has to be quality. So engagement is what you're after. And I quite often have businesses ask me how many times a week they should post or how many times a month should they post. There is no answer to that. Posting regularly keeps your brand at the top of social media news feeds, but if it's not valuable content, it's going to do you damage. So as you may or may not know, each time you post, your post doesn't go to every follower that you have. Not every follower will see each post. But the more engagement you get on a post, the next time you post, Facebook, for example, will show that post to more people. So if you have a poor quality post that doesn't get any interaction, the next time you post, the second post is going to be seen by less people. So you can actually do yourself damage by posting poor quality content. So don't worry too much about how often you post, although try and keep your posts regular. Make sure that you're focusing on quality and what's going to get engagement, what's going to get those likes, and more importantly, comments and shares. When you get comments, you're able to then engage with your customers. So it has multiple benefits in that sense. Now, images do greatly increase interaction for all social media types. Just words only really don't do very well. So think about your images. Keep your images consistent with your brand. Obviously, we're in tourism, so images should be easy to come by. But keep in mind, do you have hashtags set up? Are you encouraging people to tag your business when they're taking photos? As I mentioned, you've got photographers running around constantly within your business. So everyone that experiences something from a tourism perspective takes a photo. It's what we do. It's our memory bank, and it's how we then interact on social media. So are you harnessing your customers' images? Have you got a way to actually get them to share the images with you, or you to find those images so that you can use them for your own content as well? Now, in terms of increasing those social signals, listen to people, hear what they're saying about your brand, and respond to critique in a constructive and a positive way. Make sure that any feedback is responded to, positive or negative, because if someone's providing feedback, they're trying to engage with you. So imagine you're at a party and someone says, "Hey, I like your dress," and you just don't look at them, don't answer them because it's positive, you don't have to. Whereas someone came out and said, "Your dress is horrible," and then you say, "Well, actually," so think about it like that. You have to respond to these positive comments just as much as you do the negative. So they're equally as important, if not more so, because we're trying to keep people being our brand advocates. So monitoring what's being said online will really increase your social signals as well, because it gives you the ability to then be able to engage. So there's a lot of social media apps that track shares, they track retweets or likes or any other keywords associated with your brand. So use those to monitor what's being said about your business. Now, consider all social media platforms for your business. I don't mean that you have to be on all social media, but by knowing your target market and knowing specifically who it is that is likely to be, or who is your ideal customer, then you'll know exactly what social media platforms they're on. So absolutely consider all social media bases, but then only focus your efforts on where your customers are. Once you do have determined exactly where your customers are, produce content for those social media sites and content that's relevant again to your target audience. So really focus your efforts there, and make sure that trying to be a little bit on all channels is going to really just dilute the message. Try and really focus on the social media platforms that are really where your audience is. But do your research there to make sure. Don't assume that your audience is or isn't on a particular platform. Prove it. So determine who they are and then do your research to make sure that you know exactly what platforms they're actually on. All right, so in order to be active on channels and to encourage that engagement, you really need to support social media in your business. Now, there are ways that you can do that, and there's 3 elements to engaging with your customers on social media. Firstly, and the major element is to listen. Listen online and listen offline. So online, there's free tools for social monitoring. Like I said, you can track mentions, you can track competitors, you can track likes, retweets, absolutely anything. So become a bit of a social monitoring specialist yourself through spending time on social channels as well. Use those monitoring tools, use your analytics tools as well to track what's happening from social onto your website, and look at those brand and reputation tools. So you can do this through just searching yourself, by tracking hashtags, by tags, by looking at competitors' pages, all of that kind of thing. But actively track what's going on and then compare your results month on month. Also look at Review Pro. So if you're a member of Tourism Council, you have access to Review Pro. So definitely get on and have a look at your Review Pro report and your stats. Now, for anyone that's going to be submitting for the Tourism Awards, your Review Pro, it's a bit of a mouthful, Review Pro score is actually really important as part of your awards submission now. So make sure that you are assessing that and having a look at how that score is going and tracking what's happening on that. Now, you then talk. So talk with pictures, talk with media releases, engage with your customers on social media, engage with influencers, perhaps. Engage on blogs, on video or other communities, and other social networks that are relevant to your business. And then finally, support. So support your customers, direct them to channels where they can talk to you. So provide your links to social media on your website, perhaps on your email footers, confirmation emails throughout your business as well, by way of signage or just general information. If you advertise them and communicate them verbally and really encourage guests to engage with you online. So offline, you encourage them to engage with you online. It gives you a platform to listen. So if you're telling them to go and talk to you online, then you've got something you can listen to. You can then talk back. So it's all part of a cycle. You really have to support them to be able to listen to them, to be able to talk back to them. So it's really important that you factor in all channels and really focus your efforts in that sense. So going back to the customer journey. So social media is an essential part of that journey. It really allows you to improve your customer service, to engage with your customers and to provide real-time responses to customer questions. Through listening, through talking and supporting in that social media space, you'll really enhance the advocacy component of the customer journey, but also really enhance brand awareness, which will mean you'll become visible when your customers begin their journey. Also remember that while most businesses focus their efforts on those first 3 stages, that awareness, the consideration and the purchase, it can be a huge missed opportunity because the last 2 stages, loyalty and advocacy, will bring you the most high value customers who in a lot of cases will send you even more business. So that's really important. Be aware of all stages of the journey. Really map out your customer journey and think about those touch points. Now, I would encourage you to go through this process, have a look at those touch points from a customer's perspective. You know your business inside out, but as a first-time customer or even just a researcher, the experience may be very different. Focus your efforts on really engaging customers at all stages of the journey, but look at those first impressions. So I see this a lot in small businesses, particularly in tourism, where websites just aren't a focus, or reviews. So that's the two areas where people are really going to discover your product or service. They're going to look at reviews and what's being said about you and how you're responding to them, and if you're responding to them at all. And they're going to go to your website and your social media channels and start looking to determine whether or not they want to spend their money with you. Tourism is really interesting in that it's intangible. So at the time that we're handing over hundreds and sometimes thousands of dollars, we don't have anything that we're getting in return. So it has to be based on feelings, emotions, and the experience and the perception of what we're going to get, which largely is formed online. So I would really stress to you to have a look at your online presence and see how things are looking in that sense, and make sure that it really does meet that high level of customer service and matches your product as well. So go and map out your own customer journey and yeah, see what you look like. Even get somebody external to your business to do that for you and provide feedback. I think that's really helpful because we get so close to our own products and services that sometimes we overlook things. Okay, so that wraps up the session on customer service effects on social media. I hope that you've enjoyed that session. If you've got any questions whatsoever, please drop them into either the chat or the Q&A box, and I'll stay on now for the next 5 minutes or so and answer them. If there's anything else that you want to know, you can always book a one-on-one appointment with me through this program. Now, the first appointment is a 1-hour appointment and it's completely free. The key thing with this is that this program finishes on the 30th of June. So you would need to book that in between now and then. We have just scratched the surface, so there's a lot more to learn. We've got another 4 webinars as part of the Australia's Southwest series. So thank you very much to Australia's Southwest for allowing me to present to you guys. Like I said, I'll stay on now and answer any questions. Thank you again, and I hope you guys have a great day.